that interests me enough for me to sit there. I mean, I can shoot a deer with a firearm tipping down a road. Don't matter where I'm at. But if I'm gonna go to the trouble of sitting in a stand, or maybe I should back up and say hanging the stand or toting in a climber or something like that, I'm gonna have a pretty good idea. There's going to be a lot of stuff that draws me to the area. There's going to be a lot of buck oriented sign to put me in that place, or just deer sign in general. Now, sometimes you have to go to just hunting does and concentrations of does, and basically because the does, I almost said ducks. The ducks and the does. No, basically the does outnumber the bucks so much that buck ain't got to do nothing but just stand up and make it to the edge of a field that they're eating in, and you know he liable to encounter 10 or 15 doe deer. You know, I don't know. I'm not. I just don't get bogged down in that much. I try to keep my gear quiet. Try to keep my clothing clean. I try to make sure the gun shoots straight, or the bow, or whatever I happen to be shooting. And there's nothing substitutes for time and all that. And especially as the rut builds towards its peak, the more and more time you spend in the woods, the more and more likelihood something is liable to happen to you. And you know, it's been a big learning curve down here because this coastal region, uh, deep swamp. I mean, this is an area that Katrina just tore to pieces, and a lot of the timber is not what you expect. It's I don't even know what kind of trees they are and all that. I know there's a lot of cypress, but I mean, there's not a tremendous amount out there putting out a bunch of mass. Most of the big old oaks are gone or blowed down, or they're just not around anymore, and everything like that. So that's been a kind of a different thing. But anyway, I was tipping down this road back to the case in hand. I was tipping down this road the other day, and I was looking at the tracks, and I had to stop. I mean, I saw the track, and I didn't really pay much attention because I was looking at some more. There was 3 or 4 deer crossing this big old sandy road right in there, and of course, you know what I was looking for. I just am a big believer in bigger deer, bigger antlers. Um, but now you can be fooled. There are some big women that's got big feet, you know. But it, in many cases, if I find the kind of track that I'm looking for, I can bumble around in there for a little while, and then I'll find some more indications like some big rubs or something that indicates that a bigger deer is using that area. So, you know, you hate to say it, but uh, a lot of the deer that I end up killing are going to be on the top end of the weight spectrum. Now the rack may not be as big as what they are. I hadn't aged all of them, so I don't know. You know whether some of them are real old, or some of them are just real healthy 3.5-year old deer. I don't know, but if you get up in most areas where I hunt, like down there along the coast, if you got up in the 175-pound bracket, you'd be doing all right. Up there in Idaho where I was hunting, if a deer broke 250, I'd start paying attention. That's 250 pounds live weight. And 175 pounds down here along the coast, that would be like the top end plus about 25 pounds. And so, big feet usually end up, in most indications, they're a big deer. But back to the set of tracks. I saw this set of tracks in there, and I kind of just went across it with my mind, and then I decided I better back up and look at them again. And so I was actually 3 or 4 steps on down the road, and I said, wait a minute. And so I eased back up there to where they were, and it was a set of deer tracks, and a 50-cent piece would have covered in entirety the track. You could have laid a 50-cent piece down and you couldn't have seen no deer track up under it. It was, and so I got to doing the little bit of math in my head, and back counting a little bit, and that deer had to be bred somewhere in February, somewhere, give or take a few days, for it to still be that small. And so in the South, I think you see a longer rut. You have more time to take advantage of it and all that kind of stuff. And other than that, there's really no hard, fast rules. I've chased them everywhere. I've been all over Canada. I've been all over everywhere that you can imagine chasing whitetail. And they all have different characteristics when it comes to rutting, depending upon the terrain and the habitat and everything that they're living in. And then you throw the pressure in. We get a tremendous amount of nighttime or nocturnal pictures from bucks. And there's many arguments about that. It's like, well, they're too heavily pressured, this, and this. And I had a real good one. Every now and then somebody say something that I'll pay attention to. And this was just as good these deer are basically living around these feeders, and there is a feeder everywhere. And so the bigger bucks, they hear the feeder go off, and then they just ease in there, wait till it gets dark, or be heading that way when it starts being dark. Anyway, they arrive in darkness, and they just eat all they can eat out of that feeder, and then they go up there and lay down again. And so I had some man that was telling me that they had backed off the feeders, not in yardage or anything. They didn't feed out of corn feeders during the hunting seasons. They just let them dry up, and said first year it was like 50-50 whether anybody believed it. So the second year their buck harvest went back up the way it used to be, and said by the third season that they cut out the straight feeding out of corn feeders, they were back killing as many bucks as they always did. And, you know, that's just because the bucks have got to hunt for something to eat instead of just get up and walk to a trough or however it's fed. A lot of people use gravity flow feeders, and as long as they keep them full, the deer's going to keep on eating on them and all that. As far as tactics during the rut, the very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get somewhere that I can see, because I grew up hunting in as thick a swamp as anybody ever hunted in. But of course we did have some open areas and big oak flats and all back then. But I also hunted a lot of bird country, and by bird country it's a lot of prescribed burns, a lot of big pine hillsides, and kind of ditch bottoms down there that were grown up in a variety of different trees and all. But you know, they kept it clean. They kept the understory clean so that they would be able to see the bird dogs and the quail and everything like that. And so the number one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get somewhere that I can see. And it's kind of like turkey hunting. A lot of people that's turkey hunting with me a lot know that if a turkey does it 3 times in a row, the third time is going to meet with a different end. He can get away with it one time. He do the exact same thing second time. The third time I'll be sitting there, and I'll put together just as realistic a scenario to make him come in. If it takes not calling, and I was hunting with Bill Young down there at Banks Farm one day, and I don't know, we hunted together, and this turkey, you chase him all around, but he always ended up in his corn patch. And so I told Bill if he wanted to go in the morning, that I was going to go. He wanted to go film, which he did film, and hell, I missed. But that's a whole nother story. But I said, we ain't going to call. We ain't going to do nothing. We're going to go down that cornfield. We just going to set up around the edge on. We're going to wait till he gets there. And so then Bill's story, as we would encounter other hunters, and I would go, they'd be like, we gonna do this. I said, no, we ain't nobody gonna call nothing. We just gonna go down there and sit down there at that gate. And they'd ask Bill, they'd like, Jim, just gonna go down there and sit. And Bill would say, yeah, and the turkey gonna come through that gate too. And so, you know, the first thing I'm going to do is get out there where I can see. And especially hunting out of a climber, you know, with a couple of adjustments or moves, it's really easy to do. You just climb down out of the tree and then move to the next one down the bottom. If you too far, you can't see what's going on, or you hear what's going on and can't see what's going on. That's one way to go about it. Of course, one time I did this, it was back when summit tree stands was just getting popular and all that kind of stuff, and I got me a summit, and it had all that big rail all around it and everything like that. Anyway, I clanked around with it a little while. I said, man, I got to take this thing off. So I just took the rail off and left it at the house. And I was sitting on this one big old pine hill, and all the deer were chasing on the other pine hill. I don't know how far it was. I know it was pushing the alt six, so it was. I'm not saying